Welcome to EXP CultureCast, EXP Realty's official diversity, equity, and inclusion podcast. I'm your host, Cody Gilkeson, the visionary leader behind EXP's DEI strategy. I believe that we all have a story to tell, and that's where this show really shines. We are a vibrant tapestry of diverse backgrounds and experiences, and that's our superpower. In each episode, we'll sit down with thought leaders, industry experts, and change makers who are driving meaningful conversations and actions in the realms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. From personal stories of triumph to deep dives into systemic challenges, CultureCast is your compass in navigating the complex landscape of DEI. This is CultureCast, the bi-weekly podcast about what makes us us. Hey everybody, welcome. This is season 2, episode 8. We have a great episode today. We're going to be talking about representation, and I don't know somebody better to talk about representation than our very own SVP of Growth in Canada, Nadia Habib, is here with me. Welcome, Nadia.
Thank you so much, Cody. I'm so excited to be here with you and to share with the rest of the audience.
I love it. I love it. And for those who aren't aware, Nadia's just taken over as the new chairwoman of EXP Middle East. We're going to see a big revitalization effort in that group. We've got the banner going below, so you can join EXP Middle East. It's a great group that's been taking a breather for a minute. So we're glad to see it get some fresh life.
I'm really excited.
I'm really excited too. So we're talking about representation today. I want to start with just a background so people know why it is that we have you here as our guest. So could you share a little bit about your background and your journey and what brought you to the work you're doing today?
Yeah, so I've been in the real estate industry just shy about 24 years, licensed for about 19 years. And prior to getting into real estate, I was a kindergarten teacher. So there is a journey behind that as well. I absolutely adore children. I wanted 10 kids of my own. I ended up having 3 beautiful now adult kids. And I went into real estate because my family, they're builders, developers, so it just made the most sense. And, just always wanted more, always wanted to climb that ladder because I have such a hunger to learn about the industry and to know what's happening in today's market and what the trajectory is. And so I became a broker manager, then a broker of record. I led the #1 office for a name brand for 17 years. And my journey to EXP happened just shy of 3 years ago. And I don't move. That was the only brand I've ever worked for. When I moved to EXP, it was, again, like drinking from a fire hose. However, when things settle down, it's, my God, I wish I made this move a lot sooner. So here I am now. I transitioned over as a managing broker, and then I moved into growth, and now I lead growth in Canada.
That's awesome. Growth is always one of my favorite teams because they're always finding ways. All of our growth teams do this, finding what is it that we can do to differentiate ourselves. And that's kind of what we do with the DEI team, right? So there's a lot of common ground there. I'm always finding that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a phenomenal career to be in, and to be able to experience that growth with our agents all the time. It just gives you such satisfaction to see them growing their organizations, and you being part of it is really important to me.
Yeah, that's great. So representation is like such a critical topic, especially in today's day and age. How has your personal experience shaped your understanding of representation, particularly in our field?
You are what you represent, and where you're working. And I mean, if we're talking real estate, it's where you're working. You need to believe in the product that you have. Again, it's going back to buyers and sellers. If I am selling a property, I need to know the ins and out of it to be able to sell that product to a potential buyer, or any product for that matter. And it's the same thing in our position, is that we truly have to believe in the product that we have, the value proposition that we have, to be able to engage and be able to deliver that to other agents allowing them to see the value that we have here at EXP. So representing the brand is really an honor. It's, really being able to change people's lives by giving them the tools that they need to take their business to that next level, whether be it in production or be it in growing an organization. But providing that support and representing the brand is a huge honor for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. And, from my personal perspective, looking at representation was always tough for me as a kid because I grew up queer. Largely, most of my upbringing happened in the 90s. And that was a time when growing up, I didn't have a lot of role models. Right. And maybe the representations that I did see in TV and movies were either sort of villainous or were, an exaggerated stereotype sort of deal. So once I got into the working class, I spent most of my early career in the banking sector, and I didn't have anybody that was queer in my business who I could look up to, because banking is such a conservative industry and there weren't any really public faces. It wasn't until I found those faces that I started to find my niche and started to figure out what I wanted to do with my career and that sort of thing. When I was at BNY Mellon, there was a guy by the name of John O. Stubbs who was the head of DEI there, and a lot of my early career path was sort of stopped. It was like I was on this path to go the straight and narrow up the management path. Yeah. And then I saw this shiny thing, DEI, and I saw somebody that looked and sounded like me doing it. And I was like, oh, wait, maybe the grass is greener. And I mean, it turned out in my case, the grass was greener because I finally landed in my dream job, essentially doing what Jono was doing.
Yeah. That's amazing. Representation also, I mean, it changes. There could be a representation that we look up to at one point in our lives. And I mean, either they are there to stay or it becomes a huge disappointment where you have to be able to pivot and find yourself as well. And then you get to a point in your life where you are the representation for others. And for me, it's my children, where I have to be the strong figure because I am their representation. So I find that it never stays the same. And it really depends on the path that you take in your career and your personal life, that these representations do change. And it's so healthy for them to continuously change for you, because that's how we evolve as humans, is by finding different representations and, idolizing different people and just wanting to be in a room that has a lot better so that we can grow personally and professionally.
Right. And I think, it is a really good point. I haven't really taken the time to take account for, and my good friend and mentor and ally, Jessica Nieto, calls me out on this all the time. Like, you're the person that people are, you're the representation now. That's a weird step to go over, but you absolutely are such a great representation. I think about any other little girls or little boys that would see someone named Nadia Habib in a role like you have, right? Is so you could be the person that inspires them, right? And I think that's so powerful and something we have to treat with such respect, right?
I sure hope so. I'm here, for everyone, really. I remember when my kids were little, I would find their friends just moving in for a couple of days or moving in for a couple of weeks, no questions asked, always providing that safe home for them. And ironically now, here we are, 20 years later, I run into them and it's always like, you've always been my second mother. And sometimes you don't realize how much others look up to you until, they start telling you and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I made that impact in your life. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, that is great. As someone who grew up with many second mothers, I can really relate to looking up to a woman in that way that represents something that I would want to be as well. I would love to be that for somebody. So what steps do you think companies should take to support underrepresented groups better within their organizations?
There's a lot of different steps that they can take to support these groups. Giving them that space, that safe space to be able to, hold their events or their meetings, but also recognizing their contribution to society and to different groups and their volunteer efforts. And I find that a company that allows these different diversity groups to expand within the company really enhances the culture. It allows them to connect to one another. This happens a lot when it comes to not only diversity, but also diversity when it has to do with religion, is that people really have this strong line drawn in the sand because, we are of different ethnicities or different religions. And growing up, I was born into a Muslim household, been Muslim all my life. You veer off of that due to certain circumstances that happen in your life, but then the culture continues to stay with you. And one of the things that I've always believed in is in order to have respect for other cultures, religions, ethnicities, is you really have to study about them, learn about them, educate yourself, and be very open-minded. So what I did is when my kids were younger, they went to elementary school, regular elementary school, and then for high school, they went to a Catholic high school. And I was very fortunate that this Catholic high school also taught them about different religions. Mm-hmm. And I loved it because it really had them, be more aware and respect more different religions. And I've always taught them that in order to have that respect level, you've got to understand it. And then you'll be able to see that everybody is a human just like you. It's really your actions that determine who you are.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, and you have to also look at the opposite of that, which is if you don't do that education piece, it's really easy to other people, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to say, I don't understand that. I don't want to understand that. Those people are different, and different equals bad, right? Is where that line of thinking goes, which is just patently untrue. You're missing out on a lot of human experience when you think that way.
You really are. And it's just, all religions are so beautiful. You learn from every single one, but at the end of the day, it's really, you becoming one and just treating everybody equal all across, no matter the religion, ethnicity, or what they are. We're all humans at the end of the day. It's really the actions, and it starts with our kids being young and really educating them and allowing acceptance into their lives. They would be a lot happier rather than thinking about that, that diversity or that line that's drawn in the sand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also speaks to sort of building up an implicit bias in your children when you teach them only one way, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So, question I've got for you is, what challenges have you faced as a woman from a Middle Eastern background in a leadership position in real estate? And also add on to that, what advice would you give to others who face a similar challenge?
In a leadership role, I have to say it's really the company that you're with plays a huge role in, whether there's going to be challenges or not. Being with a company that really bases its decisions on leadership roles based on the skill set that you have and the knowledge that you have is so important. Mm-hmm. I truly don't believe that, race or ethnicity or, female, male, gender has anything to do with it. If you've got the talent and you've got the skill set, you're going to get the position, provided that the person that is giving you that position is open-minded to that. And we're seeing more and more of these walls coming down in many different industries. And I love that. And recently I heard that it's all about the coaching in the sports industry, where the women are stepping up to be more head coaches, which I love. Yeah. The most important thing to me is that the female, the individual, to break out of that shell herself and to believe that you can lead a company. You can be a leader in any industry that you're in. When especially in the Middle Eastern background, it's kind of like I can speak to how I grew up. It was male facing rather than female facing or together facing. So you grew up being behind the scenes. And my dad, when growing up, he said, I value my girls more than my boys because my girls have to work that much harder to get ahead in life, which is absolutely true. And, you get pushed down a lot depending on what you go through in life and what you experience in life. But again, I'm a big believer for, thinking that you have a rear view mirror. It's there for you to glance at, not stare at it. We all have something that could have held us down or could hold us down from our past, but it's glance at it and continue moving forward because it'll only affect your future. So as a female Muslim growing up, it's really empowering yourself, educating yourself, and breaking through the barriers that if they are put in your way, that you can break through them and you can become the level that any ladder you can climb. Is just believing in yourself. And I feel sometimes they may be held back because that may not be culturally acceptable, or that may not be allowed in that community, or I was never raised that way. But it depends on you. You are the one that's going to break that cycle, and you are the one that's going to move forward.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's really eloquently put. From my perspective, I think for a long time, especially in the banking industry, being particularly conservative industry,
Yes.
I worked in back operations was, 90% female, and the 10% who were male were all the management, right?
Wow.
It's so clear cut, the privilege there of being a male. But then I was an openly gay, out, proud, all that kind of thing, which did actively hold me back from my career progression in that industry. I specifically had, little code words called out when I would interview for a higher position of, he's too extra, he's too loud, we're worried he's too boisterous, those kind of things. Those are all code words to say he's too gay. But, and so I focused so much during those years on, I'm never going to get anywhere because I'm from an underrepresented community. But then I probably have called out this woman, Amber Hikes, 100 times on every episode of my podcast, but she's the woman. I heard her speak at Out and Equal Workplace Conference in 2017. Amber Hikes is responsible for adding the black and brown stripes to the pride flag, and she gave a speech that really made me. It boils down to, you have to recognize and weaponize your privilege to do good work for those who don't have your privilege. Yeah. And the first part of that conversation, recognizing my privilege, was really impactful for me because I never realized, I have it tough as a gay guy in this industry, but look who's having it even tougher than me. Yeah. What if I was not a white cisgendered male?
Yeah.
I'm still all of those things.
Yeah.
Right. And that opens a lot of doors. Then now I get into this position in DEI, and I decided I wanted to pursue DEI. And I have to recognize that there's some level of privilege there as well, because I am gay, I've done all of this homework to defend myself over the years, which then gave me a leg up over the conversation when it comes to having conversations about inclusivity and diversity and equity and inclusion. I have this knowledge because I had to live it, right? And that is privilege.
Yeah. 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 And
so now everywhere I go, I am bringing a chair with me to the table when I come to the table, so that somebody who doesn't have my complexion, my biology, can have a seat too, right?
Sure. In your position, Cody, so many look up to you of what you've been able to accomplish over the years. There are still communities that are not acceptant of it. And the struggles that these kids or these adults might be going through, and to be able to see where you've come how it took you, your path that you took. You must be an inspiration for them. And I mean, you would be for me. So it's, yes, you might have gone through the heartache and the pressures and the hard work to get to where you are, but you inspire so many behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah. And I truly feel that at EXP, any struggle that I might have is solely to do with my personality and the way that I work, and has nothing to do with my background.
No.
And that's kind of beautiful, right?
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
It's such
So
a thing. I don't think being a gay guy is ever going to hold me back here. I just don't believe that.
no, not at all. It's all about your skill set, your knowledge, your work ethic. That's all they care about. And that's something that we all have. So, maybe to us, we might look at it, is it because I'm Arab? Is it because I'm gay? No, you just underperformed.
No, it's just because I'm a little eccentric, right? I just need to organize my thoughts better, right? Yeah. This particular role, particularly overseeing all the 1EXP leadership teams, has made me sharpen my teeth and grow my skill set as a politician and a diplomat, and that's something I never had to do before. So that has really that's my job, right? Like you could introduce me as the senator representing 1EXP at every delegation, and that's an accurate description of what I do. Yeah. So how do you think having diverse leadership, seeing people like you and me in leadership roles, influences the growth and success of a company?
I think it's so important. When you have a room filled with diversity and inclusion, you have different mindsets and different ideas that they're able to bring to the table. But you're also on the outside, really putting out encouragement of inclusion. So agents or anyone that's outside of that room will see that I will feel included because I see Cody in his position. I see Nadia in her position. This is not a white male industry that's led by white male or, white. This is inclusive of everybody. And it gives that comfort level that I do have the ability to thrive with that company, continue to have my ethnic background, my beliefs, and there's an inclusion for that because we have, from my standpoint, our Middle Eastern network. So I am able to, collaborate with other agents that are Middle Eastern, but also that group is not closed off to just Middle Eastern. Anyone that would like to engage in that group, it's also available to them. And, as families had migrated to different countries, be it the US or Canada, over the generations, they start to lose some of that culture. They start to lose, some of that maybe faith, but they're still tied in. They're, part of me is still Lebanese or Middle Eastern. And they crave to have part of it. And that's why I love that it's open to everyone so that everyone is able to join and feel the inclusion and be able to hang on to, their ethnic background, their cultures. So I really think that it portrays a very positive image to outside of that room to be able to see that, I will be included and not just in that group, but there's so many that I can be included in, and it creates community.
It really does. It really does. We tell people all the time, find your tribe. And that doesn't necessarily mean the people who look like you, people who sound like you, people who think like you. It doesn't necessarily mean that at all. I'm somebody, not everybody has the time to do it like I do, but I'm a member of all the resource groups and I love what I take from all of them. And I have learned so much. When we started doing this podcast, the point was, I want to go on a journey of learning more about all the different cultures we represent. And I'm just inviting people in to watch those conversations. Right. Yeah. And I have learned so much from doing this, from all these different, I mean, it's that same kind of thing you were talking about earlier about wanting your children to know more about different cultures and different religions. This is at EXP, you can do that for yourself, right? Just jump into any resource group that you don't know enough about.
Yeah. the wealth of knowledge is unbelievable. And the more you learn, the more respect level you have, the more understanding and, encouragement that you have for others. I think it's so important.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So as EXP expands in Canada, how do you approach cultural sensitivity and inclusion in your growth strategy in Canada? What role does like understanding the diverse communities in Canada play in your expansion efforts?
I think it's really important, understanding the different diversity groups and different cultural backgrounds, and when you understand them, you have the respect for that religion to know the boundaries. Everyone is different. It depends, where they're from. Some may shake hands, some may not. Some may find it disrespectful to call after a specific hour. Some may find it disrespectful to do certain things. So having that understanding really allows you to be at the same level as them, showing that respect level and showing that I understand, the type of culture that you have, the type of community that you have, and we welcome you in. Also being able to go to these groups and say, we have the support circle for you because we have all these different communities here at EXP. And I think that's really important. Another thing that we've integrated at EXP is that in Canada with the growth is that because we are so diverse, whether it's, the Chinese community, whether it's a Middle Eastern community, whether it's the Indian community, we started doing videos in their languages to be able to share, which I absolutely love because there's pockets of heavily populated ethnic groups, and they're getting into real estate or they're buying real estate and they want to be able to have that available to them. So seeing that we tailor to that community really builds trust with other agents and the consumers as well.
I love that. I love that. Doing the videos in other languages is so inclusive and wonderful, and I love that y'all are doing that.
Yeah.
I just spent this past weekend celebrating my birthday in Chicago for a festival up there called Market Day. Yeah, and I like, oh my gosh, I'm a small town guy, right? I come from small town Georgia. I live in a small town in Illinois now. I've never really lived in a big city. So going to Chicago for the first time and getting to go into sort of the neighborhood, right, was like, all of this is for me, But
They're celebrating my birthday.
Yeah, and I'm celebrating my birthday, and there's all this. Yeah. But I love immersing myself in other cultures, and I didn't know this, but the hotel that we booked is right in the heart of Chinatown. And walking up and down the streets in Chinatown, and everybody is Chinese American, and all of the the street signs are in Chinese. I was like, this is like it's like one of those moments, key memories that's always going to stick in my head of like, it's like I was in Wonderland, right? I was so happy to be immersed. I was like going in every store and tasting all the things, and like, it was
you really feel the culture. I did that recently in New York. My son lives there, and I went to visit him, and we did Chinatown, we did Little Italy. You do all these little pockets and you feel like you're there. You get to, like, the people actually act as if they were back in Italy, and you get to, get the food, the culture, the way they treat you, and every little pocket is different. I love it. I love doing that in big cities.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We visited New York City once, and it was, we're homebodies. Not only are we small town people, we don't even go out and experience our small towns. We stay in our house and play video games. So being in New York City was like, and then more than that, we went to see Lady Gaga in Toronto a number of years back on her Joanne tour. And we got there early in the morning, and my husband was tired, so he went to sleep in the room. And I was like, I'm just going to go explore. And I'm walking around Toronto, like, these stores and all this stuff. The street performers, I was like, take all my money, like.
Amazing. It's really, if I'm a homebody too. When I was in New York, my son said, name one thing that you want to do right now. And he's expecting me to say like this big restaurant or shopping. I said, I want to go in the subway. I just want to ride the subway. I want to be away from everybody. I
Yeah,
just want peace and quiet in the subway. And
right.
that's what I did.
Ooh. Yeah, that's I have it's one of those things. People ask me, are me and Lee gonna have kids? And at this point in my life, I'm almost 40, and I really want to travel. I think I really want to travel. I think that's what I want to save my money up for.
Yeah.
I think about being able to go and immerse myself. I don't know. Something really clicked with me when we were in Chinatown in Chicago, where I was like, "There's a lot of world out there for me to experience." You know what I
There,
mean?
there
And
is.
I've been stuck in a cornfield for
Yeah. I
these
mean, it's
years.
tough to each their own, but I find if I had waited, I'm 46 now. So if I had waited to my 40s to have kids, I wouldn't have had kids. I had all my kids. My last one I was 26 years old. So it made it really easy to grow up with the kids. And now they're all adults and moved out. And I get to see the beautiful world that we have, which is, oh my God, is there ever a lot of places that I want to visit? So like your Chinatown, I
Yeah,
want to see every Chinatown.
yeah. Let me take me to Chinatown in every major city. Yeah, actually, you know what? Just take me to China.
Yeah. Yeah. Just let's go to the source.
Let's go straight to the source. Yeah. Oh gosh. So all right, let's talk about allies and advocates. What role do you see allies and advocates playing in improving our representation, and how can our allies effectively support us as marginalized groups?
They're so important. Like our allies, our representatives, our advocates, they are a testament of, the success of the group. And if people are willing to go out there and advocate for that group and be your ally and want others to join and be able to support it, it's because they truly feel that they are getting supported and they feel that the group is running amazing. It's giving them everything that they expected from that group. So to me, having allies and advocates, it's a testimony of how well your group is running. And the more that we have, the better it is, because one leader going out and trying to grow the group as opposed to 20 of the advocates going out and growing the group and gaining more advocates to come in as well. So it's a testament of how well that group is running.
Yeah, I think so too. I shared in the Women's Impact Network group chat
Yes.
that we got this lovely Canva template where we could say, I'm going to be at the Women's Impact Network conference. And when I posted it on Facebook, it got reshared by so many of my friends who were saying they were proud of me. And I had to take a step back and be like, I'm not a speaker at this event. I'm just going, right? But it meant that much to people that a man, you know what I mean, would go and want to learn about this and want to advocate for this. This is sort of the moment we are in society when it comes to gender roles, is we need more guys to step up and speak out on behalf of women's rights, on behalf of ending the pay gap, right? On behalf of all of these positions that it should not be the responsibility of women to do all of the advocating for.
No, and it speaks volumes when men do step up. And again, it's taking society to that next level to be able to shed the stigma that women cannot lead, women cannot be in leadership roles, women cannot advance, women need to watch their backs, always feel protected. No, we need to live in a safe space. And the more males that advocate and the more males that help women represent that safe space, the better it is for us. I mean, for me, you telling me that you're going, and I recently just found out that our CEO, Leo, is going as well. That warms my heart. It means that you truly believe in the cause, you're there to support. And guess what? If I have an issue, I would never have a problem picking up the phone and calling you, Cody, or calling you, Leo, because I know you are true supporters of this cause and of this network.
Right. Yeah. And that the reason I say it took me so aback to see so many people share that and all that kind of stuff is I I didn't realize that people didn't know that one of the main things I would say to describe myself as feminist. I didn't know that I wasn't clear enough about that, right?
Yeah.
So now I know, it's one of those things we preach about effective allyship. Effective allyship is active allyship.
Yeah.
That means you never shut up about your allyship, right? That means you never let someone talk about a group that you say you're an ally to in a negative light without speaking up on their behalf.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes it takes little instances like this to make you aware, even though it's been all along, but it takes a post like this and all those shares to like, oh, okay. Maybe I just need to be more advocate about it or advocate more about it on the socials so people know exactly my position.
It tells me I haven't been loud enough in my support of the women that I love and the women who created me and the women who, I mean, when I say created me, not just in the maternal sense, I'm talking about my life was so shaped and so impacted by women. I wouldn't be here today, either metaphorically, metaphysically. I wouldn't be here physically. You know what I mean? I owe so much to women, and in particular at EXP, everything.
That's amazing.
Right? All of it.
Beautiful to hear, Cody. It really is beautiful to hear. The inclusion, just where we are right now in society, and just seeing the roles like starting to level up. I absolutely love it. And human beings like yourself that really advocate for us and that are there for our support, that make life easier when we appreciate you for that.
I love that. I tell people all the time that most of my heroes are women. I am if you can't tell from all this stuff behind me, I'm a big old nerd. Big old nerd.
I can see it.
Yeah, I'm a big old nerd. And I will say till I am blue in the face, the reason I am the man who I am is because of the most important character in the history of media, and that is Princess Leia.
I love it. I
believe, a strong woman shaped my life. and that's, I model everything about my being after her, right? Except for, I'm a dude, but everything else that she ever stood for, that's me, right?
Love it.
So let's talk about the next 5 to 10 years. Looking down the road, if things have gone the best way that they can in regards to representation, what changes do you think we need to make to get to that ideal state 5 to 10 years down the road?
Representing diversity groups?
Yeah.
I think it's just expanding what we currently have, and diving in deep. Expanding alone is not going to do it. We can add numbers as much as, humanly possible. We can get advocates, but we also need to dive in deep with these groups to be able to offer them what it is that they're looking for, whether it's they're looking for the community, whether they're looking for tools, systems, celebrations, wins, events, when it comes
to success.
Exactly. And volunteer within the community, offering that support to them. But spreading wide and not diving deep is not going to help. And diving deep is what I really would like to do in order to advance that community, in order to give them what they want. But it's all about listening to their voices and having them be heard, because we want to tailor this group to what it is that they want.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Very beautifully said. That's your growth background showing through, right? About how and truly with these diversity groups, it really is not about the size of the group.
It's not.
It's about the impact that we have on the members of the group. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And certainly we want more people to hear about the group so that they can take advantage of all those things. Yeah. But that really is secondary to it. It's a very, if you build it, they will come mentality, right? We have to give them something really substantial and great. And that's, I see the way that WIN is shaping up right now. And boy, are we stuck in the shelves before we open that store. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
I know. It's absolutely amazing. My goal for the Middle Eastern Network is that I want to make such a big splash that others notice and want to know what's going on and how they can be part of it. Because the more that we get wanting to know more about the Middle Eastern Network, the more knowledge we'll be able to spread about the culture, religion, community, and the more that we're able to assist other groups as well. That's exactly right. That's what excites me about it. I'm so excited, and just showing Middle Eastern women that, listen, this is where we are today. How far we've come to be where we are today. And that's really important to me as well.
And, that strategy, if you want to see it in action, for anybody that wants to see that in action, look at the Young Professionals Friday Masterminds.
Yeah.
Those are, so inclusive because they give valuable information to anyone, not just to young professionals. But what they do is they feature highlighted guests every Friday with an emphasis on people who are either young in their real estate career or are young, physically young. But they don't just stop there. They also feature people who would give valuable information to those who fall into those communities. And by putting on those masterminds, they continue to grow, and they continue to have people coming to those meetings that represent, a truly diverse swath of EXP attends those meetings. And it's really beautiful to see. You'd say the same thing about the Agent Accelerator Academy at BEN.
Yeah.
Which is the most clear path to icon status that EXP has, right? Yeah. And it's something that is, it follows what are historically Black traditions of oral storytelling, and it creates this methodology for learning of passing the torch to the next class that is so intrinsically Black and so beautifully inclusive that anybody could learn from it, that it's like this, it's lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tell every group that's trying to kickstart to look at those two projects and see what you can learn, right?
Yeah. All these groups are so important. I find real estate is a really lonely industry. You're constantly in your car, you're out there selling real estate, but it is a lonely industry. And being able to find, that community that you belong to, that builds that culture, that has that inclusion is so important.
Yeah, that's true. What advice would you give to someone who feels underrepresented in their own environment? And how can they advocate for themselves?
If they feel unrepresented, I truly believe that there's always an opportunity to seek others in the same position as you are. It's really, talking more to people to know where these other individuals are. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the company has to start a group for you. Be the leader that you are and start that community for yourself. Others will appreciate it. You will be that community leader that can one day advocate for that community and be able to add to it. That's what I think. It's very hard to have a company that has all inclusive, because sometimes we don't even know what's out there that really needs, that community support. And if your company does not offer it, I would reach out and ask for it, because a lot of times they don't know. And it's nothing to keep, to keep you out or to exclude it. It's just really, they don't know. And they would be very appreciative if it was brought up to light so that they can, do something about it.
Right. Or, it could be that we are aware that this is a community, but we haven't had anybody step up and say, I want to be the one that does something about it. Right.
Yeah.
Because I can sit here and recognize all the different communities at EXP all I want to, but what am I going to do? Go lead those groups myself? I always knew we needed an Indigenous network, for example. I'm not the appropriate person to lead that group.
Yeah.
So I wait until I hear from someone who says, hey, I'm from an Indigenous community. We don't have a group for us. What do I do? And that's why we have a program called the DEI Foundations Group, where we prop up small new groups and we empower someone to create a group. And then if that group catches fire with our help stoking the flames, then you can become a whole 1EXP resource group. We've done that successfully twice in the past 2 years, and we've got 2 more on the burners right now.
I love it.
So it's just, it leans into something that's always been part of my philosophy, which is, if not me, then who, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you really give the opportunity to others to be able to lead the path and be able to feel that inclusion. And I think that's so important as well. Sometimes that's all they need, is that little encouragement that, yes, you can do it. I'm here to help you. And I'm here to assist you. And then they just flourish within that community and just, make that group shine.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question from somebody who's been in a professional position for a while. What advice would you give to someone who is from an underrepresented community who wants to aspire for a leadership role? What sort of key qualities or skills would you say they should focus on developing?
So whatever industry that they're in, know the industry inside and out. Never stop learning. Even if education is not provided to you, make sure that you understand it. Speak on my behalf in the real estate industry. There's only, when you're leading one office in a city, you really have to expand your knowledge of what's happening in that city, but also in the province, and then expand that to what's happening in the country. The more your skill set starts to improve and the more you outshine everyone else, it's all based on your skill set. But you have to get it out of your head that I'm not going to get that position because I'm a female, or it's because of my ethnic background, or it's because of my religion. It's not that. Take that out of your head. It's all about the skill set and the value that you bring to the table. It's all about statistics as well. If I'm able to show my statistics and how I've ran my business for the last couple of years and proven results, that's what you're going to get hired on. That's what you're going to lead with. But you cannot expect to get a position in leadership based on, your gender identity or your religion or your ethnic background. It doesn't work that way. Even though we want inclusive atmospheres in a place of work, it does not work that way. If you do not bring the skill set to the table and the knowledge to the table to better the company and to move it forward, how do you expect them to hire you? So really focus on educating yourself and getting yourself always to that next level, but also never stop learning. Even if you get a leadership role, you always have to step up your game. You always have to innovate and create and continuously learn more so that you can lead better.
I love that. That's great. I would throw in there that I think as you're going for particularly leadership positions, management positions, whatever they could be, higher positions, we'll call them, you've got to learn how to sell yourself and be able to back it up, right? With facts
Absolutely.
And data. You got to be able to show that I'm not blowing smoke.
Yeah.
I actually can back this up, right? In a way that also doesn't come across as overconfident or cocky.
Yeah.
It's a tricky balance. But I think that is so important when you're doing an interview for a leadership position.
I totally agree with you. You've got to bring your stats to the table, and you have to be able to prove them. And at the end of the day, you cannot oversell yourself. However, when hired, you are going to be under a microscope to be able to prove yourself. And that's what every company looks for. Everybody wants a great leader. It's, are you that person?
Yeah. That's great. So lastly, we always ask the same question at the end of all these interviews, and I'm going to ask it to you just like I ask everybody else.
Okay.
Nadia, if you're approached by someone whose first day is at eXp Realty today, and they want to say, what do I do? What should I learn first? What do I need to do? What advice do you give to somebody on their first day at eXp?
Are they an agent or are they a staff member?
They're an agent.
Okay. As an agent, I would say start off with your onboarding support staff. They are going to book a one-on-one session. Be patient, grab a cup of coffee, and just watch and listen to what they have to say. They're going to give you a step-by-step guided session so that you don't feel overwhelmed. And secondly, connect with your broker team. Always attend the meetings and enter a community. When you enter a community, you're going to feel more involved because those stupid questions that you feel like asking, ask away, there's no such thing. So I would encourage them to right away join a community at EXP, because that's how they're going to feel included and they're not going to feel alone. And you've done such a great job putting all of them together, Cody. So I'm really happy that support is there for our agents coming in.
That's great. How would that answer differ if we said it was a staff member?
If it was a staff member, it would differ a little bit by, you're going to go through training. Take it one step at a time. And when you don't understand something, just let us know. We will repeat it. We will go over it again until you get it. And if you feel like you've hit a brick wall, I want you to turn off your computer and go outside for a walk and then come back.
That is great advice for an EXP staff member. As an EXP staff member, I can agree. That is right. Sometimes you need to touch grass.
Yeah. Go stand outside barefoot. You're gonna be okay. I want you to pretend that's a hug from me. Go outside.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been such a great conversation. I thank you so much for being on here today. And everybody, please go join the EXP Middle East Network. You can find them right here at this information below. If you're listening on Spotify, that's just go to Workplace and search EXP Middle East. That easy. And you can find it and you can join. You don't have to be, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but you don't have to be Middle Eastern to join this group. You can be from any background. Just like with any of our other resource groups. As always, stay tuned for more EXP CultureCast. We'll be back a little later this month with a great guest to talk about age tech, which is going to be so cool. We're in Seniors Month, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Cody.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of CultureCast. If you have time, please be sure to scan the QR code on screen now to leave us a review on Glassdoor.